Many Kenyans were utterly shocked at the appearance of a recent obituary in the leading newspaper Daily Nation, of a Kenyan who is actually living, but his obituary was published in the press. I'm talking about Jimmy Wanjigi, a close supporter of NASA, and the NASA principal Raila Odinga. Now, a few details were changed in the obituary. For example, instead of Jimmy Wanjigi, the name was actually James Michael Wanjagi. But there was no mistaking that this actually was Jimmy Wanjigi. I mean, the photograph was very clear. Cause of death? A botched up robbery at his home in Karen. And actually, Jimmy Wanjigi lives in Karen. There were so many other details that you could link to Jimmy Wanjigi, so that there's no doubt, including Kwacha Industries, Kwacha Group of Companies, which is, of course, Jimmy Wanjigi. He owns it. Now, of course, these kind of pranks are not new. People have faked their own deaths, sometimes to escape being captured by the authorities for some crime, People have faked their own deaths for all manner of reasons, Maybe the most dramatic example is famed American prankster, Bwana Alan Abel, who once not only faked his own death, but even organized for a fake widow, And then when he appeared at just the right time, at the right choreographed time, his first comment was very interesting. Instead of saying I'm alive, or the reports of my death are false, guess what he said? He said, the reports you have seen recently on my death are greatly exaggerated. The long and short of what I'm trying to say, is that this has been done before. However, this Jimmy Wanjigi prank, or this Jimmy Wanjigi scheme that was witnessed by Kenyans recently, establishes a new law. A new dirty, stinking sewer that is very low as far as such pranks go. And it has left many Kenyans with the question, why? What would be the motive in doing something so sick against Bwana Jimmy Wanjigi? Now, actually, there's a very interesting story behind this scheme. Very interesting, highly sensitive, highly classified saga, which I'm going to reveal to you here. Yes. Now, the Kenyan press, it's widely known, has been going to bed with the government. Okay? We have seen all manner of stories, all manner of propaganda being printed in print newspapers that Kenyans really used to trust before. Now, if truth be told, what Kenyans have been seeing from 2013 is not the first time the Nation, the leading newspaper in the country, has been used by the government of the day for sinister motives. Perhaps the most dramatic case, which I'd just like to point out because it's extremely interesting, was in 1975. The editor-in-chief of the Nation then was George Gidhi, a very controversial figure, but an excellent journalist, a man who did a lot of the groundwork that helped build the Daily Nation's formidable reputation before the Jubilee government started dealing with that reputation, Anyway, so George Gidhi was the editor-in-chief, and this was 1975. To be precise, March 1975. Now, several reporters had already confirmed that they had actually seen the body of J.M. Kariuki at the city mortuary. Okay? But George Gidhi forced a very strange headline, which appeared in the newspapers the next day. The headline read, J.M. in Zambia. Now, in a later recording, which I hope to do possibly by tomorrow or the day after, I will cover this in more detail. I have a very interesting recording titled, I Miss the Old Journalists, But anyway, for now, let me just give you a snippet of information about Bwana George Gidhi. Bwana George Gidhi was actually press secretary to President Jomo Kenyatta. He walked out of that job straight to becoming the chief editor-in-chief of the Daily Nation. And that happened in 1965. Bwana Gidhi then was only 29 years old. Quite a high achiever, this guy. Now, the interesting thing, this guy was no press release editor-in-chief, I can assure you. Because despite his contacts with the State House, despite his closeness with the members of the dreaded Kiambu Mafia, George Githii published a very independent daily newspaper. And sometimes he rubbed the government the wrong way. Imagine rubbing your buddies the wrong way. Yeah, that was George Githii. A very interesting, controversial Kenyan. I hope to cover him in great detail in a future recording. Anyway, that was one classic example of how the government used the Daily Nation for sinister motives. Yeah, and there are very, very many over the years. But in 2013, after 2013, what happened is that it went overboard. Because you can realize in 1975 when that headline went through, that false headline, deliberately false, yeah, no similar thing ever happened again for very many years. Indeed, until the death of President Jomo Kenyatta. But in 2013, ikakuwa tabia kila siku. Okay? And of course, readers noticed. Readers are always the first to notice. And the circulation of the Daily Nation started to decline. Now, the excuse given to the board, the excuse given to many people, which people swallowed, was that the world was changing, that everybody was going online, and this way the Daily Nation was affected. While that could have been partly the truth, it was not really the crux of the problem. It was not the whole truth. The whole truth is the massive readership base of the nation had stopped trusting the paper that they had always trusted. I mean, it was common for people to read information online or at another source, but then they'd buy the nation to confirm the information in detail. Yes, that's the kind of reputation the nation had. Anyway, we're on this Wanjigi saga. Now, recently, you know what has happened? One of the stations that was switched off was NTV. Now, there's a very determined effort from within the nation, and especially from the editorial guys, that they want to reestablish the old nation in the eyes of the public. Now, obviously, somebody somewhere does not want this to happen, does not like this new development. And therefore, this prank was birthed, okay? Something that will attract so much public interest, yeah? And the reaction of the public is very predictable because most people are unaware of the inner workings and what's going on behind the scenes are going to say, you see, I told you, nation inakwanga propaganda tupu, unaona? They even publish photographs of live people and say that they're dead. That's what people are going to say. Of course, completely ignoring the fact that actually this was an advertisement. Nothing printed, it wasn't printed by a staff of the Nation newspaper. It was not printed by anybody. It was not produced by anybody who is in any way linked to the Nation. Somebody just walked in, just like any other person from the public, and booked an advertisement. Now, the Nation are not saying very much about exactly what went down, except, of course, they have released CCTV footage which identify the person who booked that advertisement. And actually, you can see the photograph of that person on your screens right now. Yeah. But obviously, they're not giving proper details of exactly what went down. Now, obviously, all these ads have to pass through somebody who has to check them. Yeah. To ensure that they're not breaking any law. To ensure that it's not any conman booking an ad, for example, the other commercial ads, not the obituaries, because the obituaries are part of advertisements, yeah, but the other ads, yeah. There's somebody who checks on these things. So obviously, there was somebody who was asleep on the job. Or if not asleep on the job, there was somebody who deliberately overlooked this particular obituary. Get my drift? Yep, that's what's happening. Now, it's very interesting that they chose Jimmy Wanjigi. The reason, of course, they chose Jimmy Wanjigi is that he's a staunch opponent of the government. He's a staunch opponent of the people involved in this battle with the nation. Okay? And so it was the perfect opportunity to kill two birds with one stone. Yeah? Because obviously when you see your obituary in the newspaper and you're still breathing, what effect do you think it has on you psychologically? Especially if you fear for your life, or especially if you know of certain enemies in certain sections of society. It's not going to be a joke. Yeah? So you kill two birds with one stone. Actually, these are mafia tactics. I keep on saying that mafia tactics are being used in Kenya. Because the mafia, organized crime in the US, had some very interesting tactics, yeah, in order to convince somebody to see it their way, yeah, in order to convince somebody to put to put pressure on somebody to do what they want to be done, Yeah, sometimes just to threaten a person. Okay, there's a scene in the famous Godfather movie where a studio chief does not want to see things the way the mafia boss does. And so what happens? He wakes up in the morning, he finds his bed full of blood. And then when he opens the sheets, he finds out actually it's the head of his most precious, prized horse. Yeah, the head has been cut off and put there in bed next to him. Yeah, scare tactics. Yeah, so this obituary was also a scare tactic. Okay, very fascinating times we live in Kenya right now. Yeah, and definitely not for the faint-hearted. Yeah, or the cowards. Yeah. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.